In today's episode, Jim asks, do you know what are the best tips for confident public speaking? Public speaking is really, in many ways, nothing more than a form of content delivery, right? So if you are good at content delivery in some format, you will be probably good at public speaking. There are two fundamental things that create great, confident public speaking. Number one, you need to have content that the audience desperately wants. And two, you need to know your material cold. So, let's unpack these a little bit. Most public speakers, in order to feel like they're getting the kind of energy out of the audience they want, do all sorts of stuff, and there's three basic aspects to the performance itself. There's entertainment, there's engagement, and there's education. Are the sort of the three things that you can do as a public speaker to get the audience to respond to you. So being entertaining is one, being provocative and saying things or doing things or dressing a certain way to get a rise out of the audience, and being educational, teaching people something. But at the end of the day, your content, your speech, your talk, your whatever else has to be what the audience desperately wants to learn about, to get something from, especially if you're talking about professionally speaking as in the business world. The audience is there to be entertained to some degree, to be motivated, because there's an enormous number of people who actively look for things like motivational speakers, and to learn something that they can use to make their own lives better. That may be technical things like how to do a certain type of work better. It may be things to avoid risk. There's again a ton of conferences and events which are all about risk and regulation, and they look dry on the outside, but if you're in that world, those could be very, very compelling topics. New IRS regulation 127A could be a keynote topic if it is of value to the audience. If the audience is all CPAs and they know all their customers are going to be knocking on the door in January asking about this regulation, then that talk could be extremely valuable and very compelling. But where a lot of people who are not great public speakers fall down is the content that they deliver is much too much about themselves or their company and not enough about the audience. When the audience is there for their own benefit, they want to learn something, they want to be motivated, they want to be entertained, and the speaker doesn't do that. The speaker is instead all about themselves. So that's the first part. The second part is knowing your material cold. And what makes you a confident speaker is not knowing the material itself rigidly cold, like I have just to read off memorize the talk and read off of it, but actually be an expert in your content, in your field, having that expertise, so that no matter what happens, you can deliver value to the audience. So, for example, I talk a lot about marketing analytics, and I know it's in my talk. I know the general layout. I'm about to do a talk in San Francisco on AI's application in marketing analytics, and I have my presentation and all that stuff. But if the power were to go out, or the projector didn't work, or whatever, I could deliver the entire talk as it is without a single visual, because it would be harder for the audience to see it, because some of the things are highly visual, like, hey, imagine a chart of colorful blue squares with words in them, and the bigger the square, the more important the word. That's what a way of visualizing a certain type of analysis. It's a lot harder without the visuals, but because I know not only the talk itself, but also have the domain expertise in the pieces that went into that talk, then I can speak confidently about it, because no matter what the audience does, no matter what the venue does, I can still deliver value. And one of the things I've started doing in the last few years is leaving a third of the time, whatever the time I've been allotted is, leaving a third of the time for Q&A, because that is where, as a speaker, you can deliver additional value and demonstrate your expertise. Because someone will ask you a curveball question, you're like, it's not really all that much of a curveball, and you answer the question, and you deliver value to that person in the audience, and other people in the audience may have that same exact question, and so you can help the questioner, you can help the people around the questioner, and you can show without telling that you know what you're talking about. Knowing your material cold and having the domain expertise is the way you get to enduring confidence when you speak. Because after a certain amount of time, once you've done the same talk 5, 10, 20, 50 times, you know what all the questions are. You're not going to be surprised by a question. And so you can be very confident in your talk, in the Q&A, in the audience, in everything that happens within that performance. Confident public speaking, I guess the third aspect of it, and this is one that's not changeable, is whether you are comfortable and enjoy being in front of other people. A lot of people don't. A lot of people do not enjoy public speaking. They do it because they have to. Work requires it, or their position at work requires it. My old CEO and friend Todd Deffron was very uncomfortable public speaking, but he did it because, as the founder of his company, he had to. And so a lot of people don't enjoy that. The one suggestion there is find a format that works for you. It may be, instead of standing up on the stage being the talking head for 45 minutes, it may be sitting down on stage with a panelist and having a sort of like a coffee chat where you can interact with a person, where you're more conversational rather than being a solo performer. So there may be different ways for you to perform. And if you are absolutely unhappy public speaking, don't do it. Unless circumstance dictates that you must. But you will not be a confident public speaker if you hate it, if it's not something that you enjoy. Because you will be uncomfortable on stage. And yes, you can hide it to a certain degree, but audiences know the difference between someone who's there because they have to be and someone who's there because they want to be. And they love it, and it is their thing. So, have content that the audience desperately wants. Number one, and the most important by far. 2, know your material cold. 3, want to be there. So those are the 3 basic tips for confident public speaking. There's a whole bunch of other things that you can do, and I would check out the book Steal the Show by Michael Port. It is a fantastic book if you want to learn more of that confidence and that performance of public speaking. It's fantastic. So check that out if that's something you want to dig more into. As always, thanks for asking the question. Leave your question in the comments below. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the newsletter. I'll talk to you soon. Want help solving your company's data, analytics, and digital marketing problems? Visit trustinsights.ai today and let us know how we can help you.